Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from lowtext1211 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. And before we do get into the story, I want to give you a quick trigger warning that there is talk of self-harm within the story. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description, along the timeline below. Thank you. Now let's get started. And it says, am I the arsehole for asking my sister to give me my money back after her husband made fun of my wife's scars? My sister had borrowed money from me almost a year ago for her husband's surgery and healthcare. They couldn't afford it, so when my sister asked me for financial help, I was hesitant, but I helped her because she's my sister, and helping her husband would mean helping her as well. I told her back then that I'm hesitating, but I will help her. She said she'll return the money in 3 months, but she didn't, and I didn't ask her either. So now I brought it up again. I wasn't planning on asking them to return the money, but her husband made fun of my wife's scars. My wife has small scars on her hand. It's not serious, just small scars she inflicted on herself when she was 15. I was with her back then and put a stop to it. We are 27 both, and my brother-in-law made fun of my wife when he asked her if she's still childish and asked her to cover up her hands because it's unpleasant for everyone. Both of our families were speechless, and my wife was as well. I said when we are young we do dumb shit and he's too drunk so he should just shut up. He got a bit more aggressive and said that it's still unpleasant and my wife should cover up. I retaliated in my anger and told him that my wife will start covering her scars when he gives me my money back. To be honest, I get angry easily and I wanted to insult him. My wife was holding me to stop, but I told her to shut up. I ended up telling him he's a poor man and weak who couldn't afford his own surgery and had his wife beg for money to her brother. He got even more angry and he said he will give me my money. I said do it right now, but you can't because you can't even walk properly. Our families were interfering and my sister was crying. I shut my mouth because I didn't want my sister to cry. Since then, my sister is asking me to apologize because I hurt his ego and he's in a foul mood and depressed. I told my sister that I will never apologize and he needs to apologize to my wife. And I asked her that both of them owe me money and I want it back as soon as possible. And I don't care if they are poor. Look, for the initial title question on this, are you the arsehole for wanting your money back? Absolutely not the arsehole, but the whole situation went sideways pretty fast for me. Don't get me wrong, that brother-in-law is an arsehole and absolutely out of line and not someone I would want anything to do with anymore. Making comments about your wife's scars, it was cruel, unnecessary, and I would never forgive that. I mean, especially when you're financially supporting his medical care too. Bloody cheeky bastard. But for me, I really didn't like the way that OP started throwing the actual financial situation and his disability in his face like that. It kind of went from anger, which I understood, into just hurtful territory that was just totally unnecessary. And OP turning around to telling their wife to shut up when she was trying to de-escalate the situation. Like I said, I get the anger, I get wanting to have your money back, but the wording in this was just like, oof. Adventurous says not the arsehole. Okay, telling your wife to shut up is not on, but I also get the fact that you were defending her and wanted to hurt him. I get the anger when it comes to protecting family. When someone goes low on my family, I scrape the barrels of hell. Original Agitated says not the arsehole. Your brother-in-law can dish it out, but he can't take it. He should try to be more respectful to someone who was kind enough to loan him money, and not ask for it back after 4 times the agreed timetable of repayment on the loan had expired. Not a Stepford Wife says, it is difficult to overcome the stigma of self-harm scars. I have many, and they're covered in various ways. If someone mocked my inability to manage my life, I think it would break me again. No matter how old I get, my attachment to living is tenuous at best. My husband, light of my life, knows this and can be very, very protective. It doesn't matter who it is, he will absolutely fight for me. You're not in the wrong. Your wife will always need you in her corner. Remind your family that the things that can drive you to self-harm can happen instantaneously. Make them remember that. Take from them the same dignity and respect they took from your wife. Delkisar says, I stopped covering mine up. Let them stare. I survived shit most of the people staring can't even comprehend. I survived my own head trying to kill me on a daily basis. Every time someone makes a mean remark about my scars, I either give them a long, disdainful stare or ask them if they feel better now, because the comments say more about the people commenting than they do about you. So OP does come in to update the post and says, it's an update for those who don't want to read my previous post. My wife has some small self-harm scars from her childhood. My brother-in-law insulted my wife and asked her to cover them up, and when I couldn't tolerate the disrespect, I asked him to give me the money I lent him for his surgery and healthcare. After my brother-in-law insulted my wife and asked her to cover her scars, I wanted him to pay me my money back as soon as possible. My brother-in-law and sister said they'd give me my money back in 3 months, and it's been a year, and they still didn't. My wife told me today that my brother-in-law called her and he apologized to her, so I shouldn't ask for money because they can't afford it and I should forgive them. I told my wife that he's taken advantage of your kindness and he apologized to you because he can't afford to pay, and he insulted you in front of everyone and we deserve a public apology. My wife said that she's forgiven him and doesn't want the money back and that they need that money more than us. I told her to stay away from this and let me do my thing. I will ask them again and again until they pay, but my wife said she doesn't want to, and I shouldn't either, and I should be the bigger person after brother-in-law apologized and she's forgiven him. Actually, I don't care if I get my money back, I'm just using it to get back at him. I want to humiliate him, just like he humiliated my wife in front of our families, but my wife doesn't want that. So am I the arsehole if I ask for my money and go behind my wife's back? Last Dragonfly says they should pay you back because you let them borrow from the kindness of your heart. I totally get where you're coming from, but the family drama is probably stressing your wife out. I think her mental health and happiness is more priority than humiliation. The humiliation could also make her feel guilty, even though it's not her doing, but technically it's because of her. Love that you're defending her though. By the way, your sister's husband is the a-hole. The Real Red Paradox says, I mean, there's 2 avenues of thought here. While your wife has forgiven him, you don't have to, and are well within your right to do so. Is this situation worth putting you at odds with your wife? You could just let it go to appease your wife and keep him at arm's length and low contact from now on. Trapped for Life says, and never lend him or your sister money for anything ever again, no matter what the reason. In the end, they said they would pay it back within 3 months, and they haven't, and it's been significantly longer. Give them the money, you loaned it. You have every right to demand they pay you back. Even if he hadn't disrespected your wife, he's manipulating your wife and it's disgusting of him. But you need to decide if it's worth what it will do to the relationship you have with your wife. Only you can decide that, but definitely never give them money again, no matter what they say. And there was many comments saying absolutely good on OP, they were doing the right thing, protecting their wife in this situation, wives being manipulated, etc, etc. Other people also concerned about the language around it and the way OP told his wife to shut up, etc. Other people saying, that was just anger, blah, blah, blah. It didn't feel right to me, and I'd be lying if I said otherwise. The OP did say within their post, though, that English is not their first language. So maybe it was a lost in translation kind of thing. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Probably Not a Thing Too from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. It says, am I the arsehole for telling a co-worker to read the room when he pointed out the free pizza while I was eating my own packed lunch? Yesterday, at my workplace, there was a group meeting set during the noon. As the meeting was long, my workplace decided to host a free lunch period, basically pizza and other food. This was mentioned beforehand in an email sent to everyone. Due to various personal and family-related reasons, I take my own packed lunch to work. I can't see myself eating both my lunch and the free food provided, as that would be impossible. Plus, I don't want to waste my own lunch. After the first half of the meeting, we had lunch in the room itself. I opened my own bag while a lot of other people went to get the pizza. After like a few minutes, one co-worker, whom I've never spoken to before, as I've only started 3 weeks ago, came up to me and said something like, "Hey, there's free pizza if you want it." This is where I got a little annoyed because 1, the pizza boxes were literally across the room. Obviously they were there. And 2, I was very clearly eating my own lunch, which I thought made it clear that I decided to forego the free work provided lunch. So I told him something along the lines, "No thanks, I have my own lunch as you can see. That means I'm not going for the free pizza." He said okay and then left. Later after work I told my parents about this when they asked me about what we did at work. And they said I was being rude by saying that, saying I could have left it at "no thanks." Granted, I was a bit annoyed, but I thought my simple explanation to my coworker was diplomatic and further claimed what was going on. Was I the arsehole here? I mean, for me in this, I'm not sure if I'd call you an arsehole in this situation because it seems relatively low stakes, but at the same time, to me it just felt like that coworker was just trying to be helpful, maybe get you involved, maybe thought that, you might be a bit embarrassed to go take a slice of pizza. Maybe wanted to get you involved with the rest of the group, thinking again that, maybe you're a bit shy at first to get yourself involved. And he obviously doesn't know your background lunch info, so, you can't really blame him for that either. I think the far easier way of dealing with it was just simply saying no thanks. You didn't need to point out, you were very clearly eating your own lunch. Just comes off a bit standoffish. But OP added an edit on the post and said, "Hey there, thanks to everyone for giving their insight and pointing out what I did was wrong. I've learned my lesson well. I was very much the arsehole in this scenario. I failed to understand at the moment why saying something like I have my own lunch as you can see is inherently rude. And now I know that was not acceptable at all. Though I didn't understand the social nuance of this interaction at first, due to my Asperger's. That is by no means an excuse for my actions, and I'm still responsible for what I say. Next week I plan on speaking to the coworker the next chance I get and apologizing to him for my actions and words. He definitely did not deserve to be treated that way by me. Thanks again to everyone for their input. I really do appreciate it. I may update on what happens and tie everything up on a good note at work." Swirly says, and these were the comments before the edit by the way, "You're the arsehole, your coworker did read the room. He just didn't read your mind and you got upset about it." Lizzie says, "I don't know why you felt so annoyed or needed to be rude. I guess you're the arsehole here because your coworker certainly wasn't. 3 weeks in and this is the impression you want to give someone you're working with?" Claire says, "You're the arsehole. Yeah, you come in hot and annoyed for no reason. Just say, 'I know, I'm good though,' next time. He probably didn't want you to feel excluded. Maybe just didn't think you knew you could have some because you're new. There's always awkwardness when it comes to free food given out and you're the newbie. I don't know if this is like your first adult job or something. Try and get along with your coworkers before you snap at them, especially for no reason. Your work life will be a lot better if you're kind. Are you perhaps neurospicy? It's not a bad thing of course, but may provide some context about this. This situation was pretty innocuous, but it feels blown out of proportion. Very blunt response with no real reason to be annoyed or upset. It wasn't malicious sounding, so try not to assume otherwise." Opie says, "Yeah, that's what I realized too. I'll just stick with 'I know I'm good' from now on. Thanks, and yeah, this is actually my first job ever, and I have Asperger's. Not saying those are excuses, but they're probably part of the reason why." Claire says, "Definitely makes sense. Life is hard and you're learning. We all have times where social cues are hard, never mind the fact that you are new. In a new environment with new people. It's a lot and overwhelming. At least it was just over pizza this time. If you want, you could apologize to the coworker and just be like, 'Hey, I'm sorry that I was short with you in my response. I appreciate you looking out for me. I'm new to this, so I need to work on my tone. I'm OP by the way. You don't need to mention your Asperger's at all. Also, could potentially restart a potential work friendship. An apology and accountability is super important. Also, just try and laugh this off. At the end of the day, it's not a big deal. Just try not to make it a reoccurring thing." OP replies saying, "Thanks for your kind words. And yeah, I'm definitely going to apologize to him the next time we meet. Your template apology, of course swapping out OP for my name, lol, is honestly perfect. I will certainly follow it. Also, thanks for your input on me not needing to mention my Asperger's to anyone, except HR who already knows and has formal documentation since I got hired. I was debating this, especially considering that my Asperger's should never be used as an excuse. Even so, I'm worried that I might come off as using it as an excuse when I'm not." So, it was nearly 2 weeks later that OP came in with an update and says, "After thinking about my behavior towards my coworker and getting feedback from the comments, I realized that I indeed was very much being an ass to my coworker. At the time, I felt he was belittling me, but I realized this is not the case upon retrospect. My response to him was not at all diplomatic. In particular, I should not have said something like, "No thanks, I already have lunch," as you can see, but just saying, "No thanks, I already have lunch," was good enough and the polite version. So because of this, I made up my mind to apologize to him the next time I found him. Luckily today, I found him randomly in the hallway. I went up to him and said I was sorry for being inadvertently rude to him, that I took full accountability for it, that I was aware that he was making sure I, a new employee, was feeling welcome, and I didn't initially realize that I came off as incredibly rude. He took it very well and told me, then apologized for it, and that he understood. Although there was a little hitch where he was a bit surprised when I told him I was a new employee. At the time of the first post, I was only 3 weeks in, so yes, I was a new employee. He said something along the lines of, "Didn't you join in June as the adjunct? I remember that." To which I said no. I started here 3 weeks ago, and I work in an entirely different position. We eventually figured it out, it was just a minor mix-up and we both laughed it off. In retrospect, I realized it's possible maybe I wasn't too specific enough about the lunchtime incident, and he may have been still thinking about a different event. But I was a bit nervous at the time and didn't think that. In any case, I'm glad I was able to end things on a good note and learning a bit more about what real diplomatic workplace relations look like. Commenter says to OP, "This is great. If you haven't heard it, Breen Brown had a great podcast episode about giving apologies. She said one of the worst things you can do when apologizing is to say something along the lines of, 'I'm sorry for the thing I did. I was tired, late, or anything else.' When we hear that second sentence, we basically process the apology as, 'I'm saying I'm sorry, but I'm really going to blame it on something else.' You did perfect. You took ownership instead." Riker says, "Huzzah for the adult communication. It's refreshing to see mature adults talking things out for a change. The internet makes it seem like everyone has completely lost their collective minds." Opie says, "Yeah, that seems to be a reoccurring thing that happens on the internet, but luckily there are some good interactions in the world, and hopefully more to come." And another commenter says, "A lot of people will use a sideways, 'Hey, there's X,' as a way of making sure you know you're allowed to have some in that particular social situation. It's also not uncommon at professional events for food to be reserved for higher ups, and the new guy/lower level workers have to fend for themselves." Opie says, "I did not know that part where food is reserved for higher ups. I learned something today. Luckily our company isn't like that and everyone is welcome. Also, interesting thing is that the position/other employee that my coworker thought I was would have been a core employee. Not really a higher up per se, but still key part of the team. But yeah, again, a company doesn't gatekeep food like that in any way. I mean, I've never been to a professional event like that myself, but I didn't know that either, so I'm with OP. This is a learning day. That sounds like an absolute horrible situation. All the higher ups eating their food while lower level workers are just milling about watching this? I know it's probably not that way, but that's the way it popped into my head." And on the back of this one, the majority of the comments were saying good on OP for apologizing and then building on those work relationships, which are very important in the early stages of joining the workforce, if you like. There was a couple of people saying OP shouldn't have apologized at all. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And our next story is a little bit more workplace drama from a deleted user. No update is yet, and probably won't be one as it's from a deleted user. It says, "Am I the arsehole for taking walks on my lunch break? A few years ago, I started a job that was more office-based than previous jobs. Because of that, I was moving less and gaining some weight, and I'm very out of shape. I'm not overweight, but I'm carrying a little more fat than I'm used to. I can tell my cardio ability has gone down. I get a 1 hour paid lunch per day. A lot of my coworkers eat at their desks and do a little work, like maybe answering an email, but mostly eating. I personally go to my car to eat and then do laps around the parking garage before I go back in. I'm never gone for more than an hour. I'm back on time. Recently, I did my normal routine. I grabbed my lunch, went to my car and ate it, and then I started on my walk. I happened to run into a coworker during my walk. He was out there because he forgot he needed something from his car. He stopped me and asked what I was doing. I told him I ate my lunch and now I'm taking a walk before my lunch break is over. He didn't like that answer and said our lunch break is for eating, not walking, and that when I'm done eating, I should go back to work. I told him we are given an hour for lunch. I want to use all of it in the best way I can. I think he told other people because then I've been receiving comments before I go on break that I didn't receive before. I don't think I was wrong. I'm entitled to my break. All of my work gets done on time. I take it at about the same time every day, so it's expected I won't be available. And maybe come back to a few non-urgent emails. I have my phone on me in case someone calls for an emergency, which has never happened. I talked to my parents about it and they both said that they work through lunch and I shouldn't be out walking. What? Who are these people? But also, they're older and raised in a different time. So I don't know if I should trust their judgment. So am I the arsehole for taking a walk during my lunch break? ETA, it's paid. A lot of people think it's unpaid. I'm paid for it. I'm salary. My manager doesn't have an issue, but some people I work with do have an issue knowing I use part of it to walk. I'm just going to say it out straight. Your co-workers are a bunch of bloody Burks. I was like OP. When I was in a work office for my last company and I was just sat there all day, editing videos, creating 3D models and stuff, there'd be no way I was missing a lunch. Most yeah, I did have like little mini breaks in between things and get up and walk around for the sake of my back. There was no way I was missing that lunch just to get up and get out of the office, get some air, walk around, stretch, have a bit of time that you're entitled to. The hour is yours. And quite frankly, I'd even think about talking to someone about this. The fact that this co-worker is gone and told other people who are now on your back as well, don't they call that creating a hostile work environment? The commenter says to OP, do you work with a bunch of servile nitwits? Are your parents both lackeys to the man? Don't answer. These are rhetorical questions. Not the arsehole. M. Purdy says, not the arsehole, your co-worker is an arse. I don't care if you get an hour for lunch or only 30 minutes, or if your lunch is paid or unpaid. Your lunchtime is your lunchtime. Period. And as you can imagine, just the majority of the comments on this one are like, what the bloody hell are your co-workers doing? But perhaps you've got a completely different opinion on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. Truly, it's absolutely amazing. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.